growing up, I was sort of a vegetarian. I kind of was just grossed out by meat. It wasn't necessarily like for ethical reasons. I just would like look at meat and be like, ew, like that's gross, and didn't want to eat it. So I grew up basically like on bread and cheese, and I was not the healthiest kid. And yeah, so I had a lot of different health issues growing up. I always was like that kid with the random problems. I was the kid with the runny nose, like that kid. And I got a lot of weird sicknesses too. Like I got this thing called uh, Coxsackie virus, such a weird name, but it's like this super weird virus that can like affect your joints, and it's almost like mono in some ways. And I found so much improvement from eating raw food that I kind of thought like this is the thing. And so whenever I would try and incorporate more cooked foods, I would feel not so good. And maybe it's because I was eating grains and things like that, but they just didn't sit well with me digestively, and I would also feel really exhausted. So I kind of existed in this place of like feeling about 85% better for like the past 10 years, but that was sort of what I was comparing, health to, was just my previous horrible sickness where I thought I was going to die, and being like, okay, I'm pretty functional. But I have to say that if anybody ever asked me like, are you 100% healed? I'd be like, no. But I feel like so massively better. And I thought like, oh, I just had this residual adrenal fatigue that's been going on for 10 years, even though I like take so many supplements and I do such a good job trying to go to bed. And like Drew can attest to my like ridiculous amount of supplements that I was taking.
I can't wait to talk about that. It's going to be very funny and entertaining.
I could like pull some out of my drawer too if you want to see my like really big stash.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just was always looking for this thing that was going to help me feel better. And I, compared to being sick and horrible, having horrible health, I felt like so much massively better, but I just was never really like fully leveling up. And so that always kept me searching, always kept me supplementing, exploring, trying different things. And it left me like very sensitive too. Like I could not handle stress at all. Like my health could be good if everything was in alignment. If sleep was perfect, didn't have any stress going on.
If you lived in Hawaii.
Lived in Hawaii, like don't have any chemicals. Just living the most pristine, trying to do everything perfect. Then I could just like glimpse health. But if one thing went off, I would be like, oh, and then I'd be like out for like a month sometimes.
And at this point, we're talking.
So I started to add in a little bit more like red lentils here and there, some quinoa, like stuff that still has a good amount of carbs in it, but also has a little bit more protein and fat.
Yeah. And when I met you, so we're going to back up to so let's say, up to this point, we're going on 10 plus years vegan. So let's say like the first 6 years or so of your veganism, you were pretty much raw, right? Like you maybe dabbled with some cooked food here and there, but you were basically raw.
Yeah, I was basically raw. I ate a low-fat, raw vegan diet. And
did you ever lose your period, by the way?
Did I what?
Did you ever lose your period or anything like that, hormonal?
I never lost my period. There was like one time when I did a water fast, and it, made me skip my period and then just went right back to normal. I've never been someone who's had any issues with that, like with any of my diet changes, really.
So then we get to this California thing, which was about 3 years ago, right? So let's say you're 6 or 7 years into your vegan excursion at this point.
Yeah.
And then you moved back to Hawaii from California after being there for about a year. You had been eating cooked vegan foods. Mm-hmm. You gained a bunch of weight. Mm-hmm. And that's when I met you and we moved in together.
Yeah, so I gained probably if I started out before I gained the weight at around like 115, which I'm not saying that that's like a healthy weight for me. That was what I was. I think I got up to like 145.
Yep.
And this is on totally vegan, like high carb, just eating too much and not able to like exercise a lot, but I still was doing some level of activity.
I was trying to get bigger and you were trying to lose weight. So how
I
did
was
that
just
go for
like,
you?
yeah, running, walking, any kind of cardio I could do to I knew like I needed to build muscle and everything too, but I was like, I just gotta get this fat off me.
Yeah, so how did that go? Like what was the
It was
results from that?
slow. It was so slow going and
And you were going
really,
to the gym for a while too, right?
yeah.
With
So
Christine.
I think initially, like I lost, I would say about 10 pounds pretty easily and quickly
Mm-hmm.
just from doing cardio, changing some things with my diet, being more aware of like the extra calories of like, sneaking dates here and there. Like
But that was
that
a
shit
thing
adds
to
up.
overcome. That was a thing to overcome for you mentally, right? Because you didn't know that calories were really a thing like
I mean,
until you gained that weight.
I totally did. And I would track my calories. And I've always been someone who's like for calorie moderation. I never was like following Harley and Freely's advice of like, let's just eat unlimited calories and give it some fancy name for like making, and like the calories will just disappear like that. I never thought that.
But you
Um,
also didn't like the idea of caloric restriction
I didn't
because
like
it would
caloric
make you crazy.
restriction, but I think what was going on was that I just was having, because I was like riding this carb crazy train, I think I just didn't have the ability to cut calories because my blood sugar would get so whacked and I just have to keep eating more carbs and more carbs and more carbs. And it, like the thought of like reducing that, I was like, how will I live?
You were to look at her composition back about a year ago, like it was definitely like I would say like an insulin type tummy, and I had the same thing. It was like it was just all in that belly button region, and we were talking
Totally.
about things like cold sculpting and stuff like that to sort of cheat the system to like
Yeah.
blast that fat out of there. When in reality, like we probably just needed to lose more body fat.
Right. But it was like, just, I couldn't wrap my head around like, how do I target like losing fat in this area? And I knew that like there were different things that could cause you to retain belly fat. And I also was like, hey, I'm like a pretty decent weight. Like, should I really get like super nitpicky? Like, there's other people that are way more overweight, and like, should I really be so hyper focused on like 5 or so pounds? Like, I mean, that's I'm still a lot less than that now, but yeah, I just like part of me was like, okay, I need to just be grateful. Maybe this is like my new woman body, and I just need to accept it. But um, that's not the case.
Elise going to animal foods, a lot of other people coming out with animal foods. So like where does this leave
Yeah.
you? How are
So
you feeling in this interim?
let me tell that story. Like, how did
Yeah.
I go from like thinking, okay, veganism is like good enough, and to yeah.
Maybe animal
Oh, to
foods
answer the
might help
question,
you.
everyone's like, I
Yeah.
think I can still vegan. Guys, I'm not vegan anymore. Okay, there we go. So let me tell the story. So I have, throughout being vegan, throughout this past 10 years, I've had multiple instances, sometimes a couple times a year or more, where I have like, I don't know if you want to call it like autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr, whatever. Like I have Epstein-Barr, oh, that's another thing. At some point I want to like pull out my blood work somewhere in this desk here. So I was having these like reoccurring sort of chronic fatigue episodes where like I would just be down for like a couple months. And when Drew was out here, like I didn't know exactly what it was. Like, is it Epstein-Barr? Is it adrenal fatigue? Like, and basically anytime I would have really strong emotional reactions to things is when I would have this sort of flare up of this chronic fatigue, Epstein-Barr crap. And I finally went to the doctor and got tested, because this time it was one of the most extreme times that I've ever experienced, where most of the time I just feel like kind of sluggish and run down, but I'm still sort of functional and I can kind of like push through it. Feels like I'm like swimming upstream, but like I can get by, and then it eventually will pass. But this time it was insane. Like I was almost bedridden for like a month, and I was having crazy dreams, really crazy blood sugar issues. I was waking up every morning crying, like from a dream, or just like not even like even having a chance to think. Like I just would wake up crying. What's happening to me? Like I should be allowed to have emotions. and not have them destroy me all the time. And so that was really frustrating. And I also like, I would look at my mother who's like in her 60s, and I'm like, she works a full-time job. She just finished her degree. Like, she's a nurse practitioner and she just got her doctorate. She travels all over the place. Like, she gets crappy sleep here and there, and she's just like rocking. And I'm like, why am I 33 years old? And my mother is like so much more badass than me. Like, this is not okay with me. So I, at that time when I was just not feeling very well, it was very scary too. Like, I had a lot of fears going on. I'm like, is like the stuff that happened to me before I got into raw food, like, is that going to happen again? Like, am I going to be bedridden for like months or like a year again? Because it was so bad. And I totally lost my appetite. Like, I was having to force myself to eat food. And some people might say, oh, well, then, like, you know, your body is just telling you need to fast. And well, when I fasted, I would just have like so many blood sugar issues. So I couldn't just like lay there and fast. And also, like, I felt depleted. Like, I felt like I need things. Like, I shouldn't be fasting right now, but I didn't have an appetite, so I didn't know what to eat. But I was forcing down, you know, these superfood smoothies and trying to eat super clean and doing so much green juice. And I have to say, I did feel a little bit better. Like, I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be crying, and then I'd have like an epic green juice, and I'd be like, okay, feel a little more mentally balanced. But then by the end of the day, it was still kind of whack. I mean, I don't know if can you guys see this situation over here? Probably not. I can't like remove my drawer. Basically, like, this entire drawer, if you hear this stuff over here,
All
the
supplements.
whole drawer is full of supplements, of which I do not take, I would say. And then in my kitchen, there is another whole section where the supplements are just.
We factored it out one time, and Megan was spending roughly $500 to $600 a month on supplementation.
Right, it was like $500, and that was just to like feel decent. Like, if I didn't take some of these supplements, like if I took out my like special magnesium or whatever, like I would not feel right in the head at all.
Yeah,
and
you were